My great-grandfather, Bill Simmons, was an Alabama sharecropper by day and a moonshiner by night. His son, my grandfather, my hero, Willie Fate, was a larger-than-life character. It was not uncommon for Granddad to take me down to the grocery store in his tailored suit to buy a gallon of milk with $100 bill. He would secretly show me a wad of hundreds and say, "Do you think I have enough?" He worked 3 jobs for 30 years. He was a cook in the Navy Reserve, a waiter and room service at the Mayflower Hotel, and the head maitre d' at Firestone Tires in Akron, Ohio, and the Executive Lounge. He had less than an 8th grade education. This was a man with no corporate strategy, no MBA, and no LinkedIn profile. But all the same, after 3 decades of grinding, when some folks would think that maybe it was time for Willie to slow down, he started a catering business. And it was a great success. He just went and did it. Nobody gave him the title of CEO. He just started acting like one because it was work that needed doing. My father, my hero, Lee F. Simmons, started his early years working on my great-grandfather's farm until he was 14. Then he moved to Akron, Ohio, joining my grandfather in his business. And it was there that he learned how to get the work done. Not just how to do a job, but to do it well. And he went on to become the first Black steward on Air Force One, flying missions for Kennedy up through Ford. When I was a kid, I would go down to the hangar and watch the crew prep for diplomatic missions. And after hours, my dad would moonlight as a bartender at the NCO club. He didn't have a fancy title on a business card. Heck, he didn't even have a business card. Let's start there. He was a steward and a bartender. He knew his job, and he did it well. When he walked into a room, anywhere, people respected him. He served the most powerful men on the planet. He witnessed firsthand historical moments that shaped our country and the world. And he never once confused his position with his value. Neither did the presidents who he served. He was a reliable, continual, excellent, and essential part of the American operation. And like my father and grandfather before me, I took their insight with me into my own career when I first started out in the hospitality business. I began on the front lines, first washing dishes, then serving customers, and then working my way up through the operations. And somewhere along the line, the corporate world tried to teach me the same thing that it does for so many of us, that the work comes second, and that it's the title, the business card, your position on the org chart that matters most. We all have a tendency to confuse authority with leadership. We think a title like vice president or director automatically grants us respect and insight, when the truth is, those titles act as barriers. They prevent us from hearing the truth, from connecting with our people, and actually serving our customers. We need to stop allowing these titles to wall us in and become siloed, and understand that the outcome is the priority. Real leadership means stripping away the pretense and getting back to the work. It means getting away from climbing the corporate structure that arrives with reaching the summit and empowering every person, regardless of rank, to own the solutions that make the business better. Now, I've been in hospitality for 30 years, traversing through roles before landing in human resources, thinking wrongly that it was a 9 to 5 job with weekends off. HR is not a 9 to 5 job. When something goes wrong anywhere in the organization, eventually it becomes your problem. That's a 24/7 job. So I went into HR getting bigger and bigger roles. And in 2020, I became a vice president. And that's when I learned that when you have a title like VP, there are things that people will say to you just because of that title. They'll tell you what they think you want to hear. Even worse, there are things that they absolutely will not say to you. These titles create a wall of silence around you. That's what I'm saying when I call it a silo. You feel it when you walk into a room. There's this nod they make. He's here. Or else they stop talking. That's what it's like to be inside a silo. You look around, they don't really see anything at all. And I mean that literally. When I would travel to a hotel as the VP of HR, the staff would be running around with their hair on fire, stressed out, making sure that everything was perfect. Corporate's here, they say. And worse, I actually got this a couple of times. Are you ready for this? HR's here. First of all, my name's not HR. It's Vic. And that's not connection. That's anxiety. That's the problem. And it makes work worse because it prevents us from seeing what's really going on, the actual issues, and what people really need. When we lead with position, when we lean on that business card, when we pull it out the moment we arrive, when the first thing we tell people is our title instead of our names, well, we create an environment where people are afraid to be honest. Front desk agent knows exactly what a guest needs, but is afraid to act because they don't have the title. The hierarchy kicks in. The guest suffers, and we stop seeing the person and only see the rank. The same thing happens when we place people in boxes based on identity. I spent years doing diversity and inclusion work, and what I've learned is that while labels can help us understand experiences, they can also prevent us from seeing the individual standing right in front of us. Instead of listening to someone's story, we start responding to the category we think they belong to. Titles from above, labels from outside, they both create the same damage. They replace the person with a category. The silos are different, but the effect is the same. We stop seeing the person. Now, fixing this starts with stripping away the pretense and getting back to the work. It starts with empowering the front line, the housekeepers, the servers, the front desk agents, and so on. In the hotel world, it's all about the guests. When a guest calls the front desk with a room service issue, the front desk agent shouldn't say, well, that's not my department, or blindly transfer the call away to room service. They have to own the solution. They have to be a leader in that moment. The senior leaders that get this right give their frontline staff permission to own the solution and support them when they do. They give them real authority, the ability to spend money to fix the problem without asking permission. One of my HR buddies works for one of my favorite hotel brands to stay at. She told me they don't even put a dollar amount on what their agents can do because they don't want to box them in. They empower them to make their own decision based on the situation. Yeah, now, first the managers, when this started, were a little afraid that the agents would give away the house. But that wasn't the issue. What happened is the people rose to the level of trust they were given. Now, if one of them happened to go a little bit overboard, what happens is the response is coaching, not discipline. Second, humanize yourself. When I went to my first hotel as a new boss, I brought a jar with me. It was a Father's Day gift. It had dadisms. Things that I used to say to my kids. Do a good job in school. Are you going to sleep the whole day away? I read every single one of them in the first meeting with my team. Now, from a corporate perspective, yeah, maybe it made 0 sense. But as a human being, it made total sense. By the time I left that hotel, the staff gave me a new jar, and they were now calling them Victorisms. They no longer saw the director, my title, anymore. They were seeing just Vic. Finally, push yourself to ask better questions and to keep asking them. When I get to a new hotel, I ask people, how do you get your work done? It's a simple question, maybe even an obvious one. But you'd be amazed by how many people said to me, you're the first person who's ever asked me that. These very basic questions that we all have a tendency to forget to ask. They matter. But so do the people that are answering them. What do you need to make your job better? What are your career aspirations? Ask great questions and keep asking them, because the answers change over time, and repetition builds trust. I want to take you back to my grandfather. Did I tell you he's my hero? He didn't wait for someone to give him a title before he started acting like a business owner. He led where he stood. My father. Did I happen to mention he's my hero? He understood the same thing. He served 4 presidents without ever confusing his position as a measure of his worth. These men didn't need titles to have permission to lead. We can do the same. And it starts with looking past the title on your name badge long enough to see the person standing right in front of you. My call to action is for everyone, whether you're in the head office or on the front line. Whether you're in the hotel business, tech, nonprofit, talk to your people. Ask them how they get their work done. Share your isms. Break down the silo. Because when the title falls away, what you have is presence with who you really are. That's how you really communicate. That's what's crucial. And that's how you make work better. Thank you.